Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chakras and Cusswords podcast. My name is Catherine, and I am your host. Today, I'm super excited to get into the astrology for the month of February and also talk about some of the reflection that has occurred for the month of January. And I will say, I don't know if you've been feeling it, but I've been feeling it. I feel like January is the longest month we have ever had. Like, is this a year or is this a month? Because it's freaking long and it's been a lot of energy, a lot of energetic shifts, a lot of movement, a lot of spiraling, just a lot of intense energy. And I'm kind of exhausted from January. So let's look at the month of January. I want to tell you that I am recording on Tuesday, January 21st around 11:33 a.m. And I'm recording this a little bit early. It'll come out to you guys around the 27th. But I am recording this because, in all honesty, I'm just over January. I just want this month to be over and we could start to talk about other things. I will say this month definitely started out with a bang, no pun intended. It was very violent and it was very drastic, but what can we expect? I mean, it's the new year. The new year has a representation of the number 9, which is known for closing old chapters, closing and coming to a conclusion. So what is next? What will we learn next from the past year, taking us on into the energy of 9? And 9 is also known for having that dominant force that is tied on to with the energy of Mars. Mars being an aggressive energy, a dominant, destructive, even a little bit mean. I mean, it's definitely not the nicest, but we can learn from this and we can also become a little bit more spontaneous and we could also become a little bit more creative with our structure, because what does 9 break down to? The simplest form would be 6 to 3. And we all know 3 is about creation. So what will we be creating in this year? And also we have it starting off with January. January is a dominant number as well. It is the masculine number. It is seen the energy as 1 being the starter, 1 being the movement, 1 being the new movement of energy of moving into new areas and insight. And it does have a lot of appeal to it. And also it does have a lot of area of feeling overly aggressive and overly assertive and overly masculine. And that's kind of what this whole month felt like. A lot of masculine, dominant, assertive, aggressive, violent, and destructive energy. So first thing first, on the first of the year, the first of January 1st, we had a Tesla Cyber truck filled with fireworks that pulled up in front of the front of the Trump Hotel and it exploded. It is believed that the driver possibly unalived himself right before the explosion, and it officially kicked off 2025, and it felt and was very violent and very aggressive. What we know about this Cybertruck driver was that he was seen as a Rambo type. He was a Green Beret. His name was Matthew Livelsberger, and he is seen as somebody who was like a super soldier, and apparently he liked Trump, but I don't really understand the connection or the area of why he decided to do this. And I'll be honest, I didn't really research it anymore, except for this attack occurred, this violent explosive, which I believe harmed a few people. And I believe he actually passed away in the explosion, but it's kind of speculated what was the main reason, because they said he liked Trump. So I don't know why, but the coincidence is definitely there. Tesla truck, Elon Musk, Trump Tower, and an explosion. Interesting. I guess this really shows us we never know where certain acts will take us, certain areas will take us. And it's interesting because we probably did not see this coming, but the coincidences are eerie, because the cops say that he also served at the same military base as the New Orleans suspect attacker. So on New Year's Eve, there was an attack on New Orleans where basically a man drove at rapid speeds and ramaged his truck into New Orleans, and it was like a crowd of people were hit. It was a horrible attack. Many people lost their lives. The stories are very sad. I believe it was up to 10 that he actually, were involved in the crowd that the driver killed. I don't know if it's increased to more, but that is very sad that this is the way that the year basically started off, in a violent attack. Not just one, but two violent attacks. And it's kind of unclear why the second attacker, traditionally the first attacker, because I believe it occurred right after New Year's Eve onto New Year's Day, occurred in New Orleans, if it was because he was now like a terrorist. But this is, to me, is a terrorist attack. This is a terrorist attack, right? Both incidents more are focused around terrorist attacks versus like not Frankie, I want to say Frankie and Luigi, but Luigi Mangione. That, to me, that was an isolated attack. Yes, it did have some area of political and also capitalist destruction taking forward, but this seemed more as a terrorist attack to create terror onto the public. So that was some heightened energy. Right around this time, we had Vesta enter Scorpio on the 2nd, and Mars in Leo opposing Pluto in Aquarius, which I thought was very interesting, as Mars being the aggressor, opposing the Pluto in Aquarius, the shift that the collective might be taking. Then on January 3rd, we had Venus entered Pisces, and right around this time of January 6th, Mars retrograde enters Cancer. We had that time where people were acknowledging that there is a lot of new insight on what alcohol might do to the body. So, dry January, a lot of people have been doing dry January, and it is believed that 1 in 25 cancers are caused by alcohol in some ways, or basically it gives a little bit more of a in factor, right? That drinking more than one drink daily increases your chance of colon or rectal cancer as well. And heavy drinkers are 5 times more likely to develop mouth or throat cancer. And so people were talking about this. Some people are doing dry January, whatnot, right? I did dry January. I did order a drink one night when I went out with my dad. And I will say that I felt like there was no alcohol in that drink. It was all fucking juice. I thought I was going to get like a little tipsy, and I was like actually planning on breaking my dry January, but then that was it. I just didn't really feel the urge to drink anymore. So I consider myself still drinking, still not drinking for dry January, because to me, that drink didn't count because it was so watered down and so juicy that I did not even taste any alcohol. So to me, it felt like I drank a mocktail, even though I didn't order a mocktail, but I think they mocktailed me. On January 6th, we had Mercury in Sagittarius squared Neptune in Pisces, and this was right around the time that we had on the 7th, the energy of the LA fires. The LA fires are very devastating, very upsetting, horrific moment, but it sounds like it was like almost like a apocalyptic event is what LA looked like. I'm in Northern California. I saw a lot of photos, a lot of videos. It's very sad how many people are going to be displaced, how many people are never going to be able to move into that area once again, especially if they were renting. I don't like the fact that mainstream media is concentrating so much on the celebrities. Like, yes, it's very sad that Heidi and Spencer lost their house, but let's talk about the people who don't make as much money or who don't have as enough money as Heidi and Spencer Pratt. I mean, they will stay in LA, but a lot of people are being displaced. If you want to hear my full podcast on it, I talked about the fires, the areas of the element of fire, the area of climate change. I got into it. Also, they said that the celebrities who do lose their house, Kim Kardashian, I really don't care. Her house was like $70 million. She should be donating that $70 million to the fire victims. but she won't. She'll try to, rebuild her house. Meanwhile, her sister Kylie has been flying her private jet literally 11 times in 2 weeks. So that's almost once a day. Damn. And they're telling us to basically recycle our straws. They need to crack down on these celebrities and the flying of their private jets. Like before they tell us we need to go electric cars. How would they start going no flying, but once in a while, 11 times? Like, it's utterly disgusting. Of course, there's a lot of global and climate things and changes that really kind of step the groundwork for these fires to happen, even if they were started with arson. But I did think it was pretty peculiar that such a massive fire hit right around the 8th of January. And then we also had the Lahaina fires that were the 8th of the area of August. So I don't know. It just felt like an eerie deja vu, honestly. You could check out that podcast. Until we really find out what's going on, I think people need to start paying close attention that we can't change certain things. All we can do is prepare, right? And what's interesting is that there was a interview floating around where Joe Rogan talks about how all the fires that occurred, but before he recorded this in July, that basically all they needed was the right wind, the right spark, and it would leave complete devastation in California. The fact that there wasn't any water, California is always struggling with water. So a lot of people were very angry. A lot of people were getting water from their pools, trying to put out the fire, but there just was not any water in the fire hydrants. But, Gavin Newsom was kind of like, this is what happens in major fires. But I don't understand why we weren't prepared, right? Why we weren't prepared. Why we didn't look at what happened to Lahaina. Because it felt very eerie. It felt very eerie, very deja vu-y. And it's very sad because the people who are being displaced are the people who honestly are more likely like people who are traditionally born and raised in LA, right? Born and raised in this area, especially the people who have generational homes. But these celebrities in their summer homes, and these people who are going to be displaced but are going to be able to basically buy a new home, it's hard to feel very sympathetic. I want to know, how are they going to help these everyday people get back into their homes, because they haven't helped that many in Lahaina. When we went to Maui, there was still a huge area of Lahaina that has not been rebuilt. This is going to take years, right? Years. But California, I don't know. I don't know what was their plan. We have fires all the time, so I don't know why our preparation was so horrible. Absolutely horrible and embarrassing. And it really shows, like, what are these politicians doing, right? What the fuck are they doing? Because they aren't helping us save our homes. And then, of course, they have the whole the whole thing with the insurance companies and fire being eliminated from a lot of contracts and packages and insurance claims. So that's what occurred. And then this happened also right around the time there was an Aries moon. The North Node was still in Aries, and we are in the year of Mars. And I remember in the podcast I said, God, what a volatile time to have a Mars year, the North Node in Aries. And then they said that, Los Angeles has this huge Aries stellium. So it's very sad, and it's very sad. And then we also had on this date, on January 8th, Mercury enters Capricorn. We see a lot of talk and communication about the world, Capricorn being our earth sign, and then also about the planet, about California, about the government. All the communication is all over discussing the fires. Right around January 12th, we have the North Node switching over to Pisces, hopefully giving us a softer approach in life and in our areas. And we also see that it then shifted the south node into Virgo. And then we also had that energy of Mars in Cancer trines Saturn in Pisces. And what's also interesting is right around the time of the fire, we had that energy of Mars in Cancer retrograde occurring, where Mars shifted to Cancer. And we have to remember that a lot of us in California were, a lot of the planes couldn't fly because of the air, the wind being so heavy. So what did they do? They went to the ocean to get water. So when they were finally able to fly, they used the ocean's water, the area of the Cancer, of that Cancer element of the ocean. Then on January 13th, we have full moon in Cancer. There still is a fire going. And then a lot of talk about TikTok. Also, a lot of talk about the TikTok ban. A lot of people are downloading that app, Little Red Note, I can't remember how to pronounce it, but go ahead and check out that podcast I did on the TikTok ban, the ban that was heard across the world. And what is going on with TikTok, right? Are they going to take TikTok away? Are they going to sell TikTok? We don't know. Also, President Biden released this statement that they have released a ceasefire and that Hamas and Israel are working together to have some type of hostage deal, and there's going to be much needed humanitarian assistance provided to the Palestinian civilization. What's also interesting is around this time we had Sun in Capricorn opposing Mars in Cancer, which felt like the area of the home life being completely disheveled, that energy of Capricorn of leadership just overtaking that assertiveness of the energy of the feminine. That is what is left of the home state, of the root state of safety. The Mars retrograde in a Cancer did make it feel very ruthless. And also, I don't necessarily know if I trust that there's actually a ceasefire, because I've heard that multiple people have been bombed again, multiple innocent people. So it's very hard to believe that. And I think that is something that Sun in Capricorn opposing Mars in Cancer, and also it having around the same time a Venus in Pisces squares Jupiter in Gemini, that area of relationships, our higher consciousness, and kind of squaring off that area of expansion, especially with the messenger. Do we really trust this? I don't know. And when we are talking about trust, let's talk about everything that they put in our fucking foods. So the FDA bans red dye number 3 from the foods in the US. Now, I will say there has been a ban in California for quite some time, but apparently they have never, ever, ever, ever removed this from the manufacturers until now, or they will until now. So food manufacturers have until January 15th, 2027. So this isn't even going to occur that quickly, okay? It's still going to take some time to remove the dye from their products, while ingested drug manufacturers have until January 18th, 2028 to comply. They still have another 3 fucking years for us to ingest this fucking red food dye that has been proven in a study to cause cancer in male rats. Okay, what about the female rats? But they said male rats. I don't know. Maybe they didn't even test the female rats, you know? But it occurred in the male rats. So, but other countries have had these restrictions. The European Union has already had these restrictions where they don't use this. Our FDA is so aligned in bullshit that it just really shows. And then what's also interesting is right around that time, we did again once have that Sun in Capricorn opposing Mars in Cancer, the area of safety, children, and creating a direct opposition of what it is to have leadership dictate what we should be eating. I mean, they know that other countries are restricting this. Why wouldn't they? I don't know. You know, we will see, right? Okay. So then also around this time, we have the TikTok ban. The TikTok ban occurred on January 18th. I will say I did a whole deep dive on that. And it kind of occurred where, watching TikTok and then all of a sudden, boom, can't get back on. We knew it was going to happen. It was quite odd the way it played out because it kind of played out for about 12 hours and then all of a sudden you could get back on TikTok. Now, what's also interesting is around this time, we also had Mark Zuckerberg talking about how he was going to release or lay up on some of the censorship and truth facting that's on Facebook, the baby boomers' favorite fucking social media. And he was going to basically, make it where we could spread more truth. He kind of wanted to take a page book out of the Elon Musk social media movement, I guess you could say. But anyways, this kind of happened all around that energy of Sun and Capricorn, sextiles Neptune and Pisces, to be more focused on, it sounds like he's trying to be more focused on letting a helping hand to the people who actually use his accounts. Okay, whatever. We all know it's about money, right? And then around this time, we had Venus in Pisces conjunct Saturn in Pisces. So it's time for us to really look at the areas of activities. A part of me just wants to get off of social media completely, but it's so hard, right? It's so hard, but is it really? I mean, I don't know. I've been thinking about it. I really have. Or at least spending less time on there. That in all honesty is where I kind of been. I still have the apps on. I'll do a post here and there, but I just do not care for it anymore. And now that TikTok's probably going to get sold, I'm wondering, who are they selling it to? And will it ever be the same? Should I even be on it? I do like TikTok sometimes. It's kind of fun to just get on there and talk shit. But also we have TikTok coming back in less than 24 hours. It was more like 12 hours that the TikTok ban actually happened. And it makes you wonder what's going to be the next step. Then around January 19th, we had Sun enters Aquarius. And we had the energy of the Sun in Aquarius conjuncts Pluto Aquarius, which occurred on January 20th. And then we had the good old USA presidential inauguration for everybody who voted for Trump. I'm so happy that you're happy. Okay. I honestly do not know what to say. Trump's back in office. There was a lot of astrologers that, stood 10 toes down and was like, Trump will never be in office. And that's when I want to remind you guys not to take everything that us astrologers, psychics, mediums, intuitive, or wishy-washy witches have with too much loyalty. Like, in all honesty, can we see the future? I can't. I don't know. They claim they can, but when the future occurs and they get it wrong, they get all pissed off and start yelling at people. So they said that, it wasn't going to occur. The inauguration, something was going to happen. Do I think something could still happen to Trump? Yes. And there's a couple of reasons why. It's because number one, he's a dog. We're still in the year of the dragon. It's his opposite year. It's supposed to be a challenging time. That was one of the things. Okay, so we have that. Also, the Pluto, this Pluto in Aquarius is occurring mostly in his 6th house, right? So that energy right around the 5th transitioning over to the 6th. So this energy could be affecting him in areas of leadership and also affecting him in energies of his health and wellness. So we will see what occurs, with the daily rituals and the daily that happens to Trump. I will say that I thought this was very strange. Was during the inauguration, he had Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and then Jeff Bezos and his wife or girlfriend, Lauren Sanchez, all front row, while the cabinet was in the 2nd row, which let me kind of like see, okay, I see you. You're focused on space exploration. Space, going to Mars is something that he talked about. So he is definitely teaming up with Elon. I would be surprised if they don't try to make some type of attempt to send people to Mars in the next 4 years. Also, I definitely think that he is creating a staple where he can continue to gain wealth, because now he has like this crypto coin out, him and Melania. I just think, people voted for him for whatever reason. I don't know if he's necessarily going to help the economy, mess up the economy, what's going to happen, right? We can only wait and see. We can always wait and see. But it did seem like a crazy inauguration. So he had the tech bros there, front row and center, letting us know where the money aligns, where the movements align. I will say that was the widest inauguration I've ever seen. I mean, I think the only people who were black or brown was Obama, and Michelle didn't come. I don't blame her. At least she stood, firm to her word. She don't like Trump. She don't like Melania. She don't like them, and she's not going. Okay, Trump didn't go to Biden, so we can't be mad at her for that. At least she's staying, firm on her word. And then Lauren Sanchez, she showed up in a white bra bustier type thing with a blazer over it, and then they catch Mark Zuckerberg looking at the boobies. I mean, she kind of has that whole sugar baby aesthetic. It felt like she just ordered it off of Prime, Amazon, and Jeff Bezos is like, this is my lady. She's a dark vixen sugar baby. I get it. I get it. I would think she would be a little bit more classy, but she decided not to be. So each her own. And then Melania had that weird ass hat. But then everybody was saying she looked like the hamburger. But then Kim Kardashian shared a picture of her hat. And people are saying, Kim, you didn't even recognize as Martin Luther King's Day. Don't you have 2 biracial children? That, I thought you were very much centered off like civil rights and activisms and free the Menendez brothers and, pay the firefighter prisoners more money. I thought you were a little bit of a baby leftist. Nope, sounds like she's got her hand in the Republican cookie jar and she's trying to get him that, maybe do a little woo-woo with Bezos and his girl. I don't know. The whole thing is just really funny. I think Kim Kardashian wants to get into politics, but she's not even a real lawyer. She just went to law school. I don't even think she passed her exam. I don't even think she could practice law. It's just, media attention. She's trying to get people to like her. Again, people don't resonate with her. They don't resonate with the family. They're a bunch of sellouts who love to steal from the black and brown culture, and people are just kind of like over it. We're like, okay, Kim, go away now and take your jet flying sister with you. So yeah, she's been getting a lot of hate. I'm not really for it. Watching another season of the boring ass Kardashians. I don't care if they bring Lamar Odom back. I don't care what they do, but I'm over them, and I hope somebody fucking cancels them. So I think the moral of the story is, how much time are we actually paying on social media? Too much, because it's making all these fuckers hella rich. Also, why do we even have an Amazon Prime subscription when you can receive it free if you just spend more than $25? And the majority of us all spend $25. We could probably cancel that. Why are we driving Teslas? Okay. And then a lot of people are saying that Elon Musk did a Nazi salute, some type of Roman stance but it looked like the Nazi salute. I think it looks pretty suspicious. I saw it. It looks pretty suspicious to me. I don't know. He was feeling a little bit too comfortable there, but I know some people are saying that was just him sharing his heart to the crowd. Okay. You guys believe what you want. But for the most part, I'm kind of over January, and let's talk about February. So there are some movements that are occurring in the last of January. We still have on January 27th, the Mercury enters Aquarius, which will be the day that I believe I release this podcast. Then we also have January 29th, new moon in Aquarius, so create some intentions. Then we have on January 29th, the lunar new moon, year of the snake. So areas of transformation, the area of 9 and the energy of snake, closing, rebirthing new chapters. We also have Uranus direct in Taurus and Sun in Aquarius trine Jupiter in Gemini right around the 30th. Let's look at February. February, I'm hoping that dual energy, that number of 2, the second month, brings some peace to mind, to the collective, that things can get better, hopefully. Maybe it'll be a little bit more calming. On February 3rd, we have Mercury in Aquarius trines Jupiter in Gemini. Venus enters Aries, and Jupiter goes direct in Gemini on February 4th. This seems like a perfect time for relationships and also a perfect time for abundance. Also an area where we could talk about communication, especially with our inner circles, start to create some creativity and also some area of confidence. It's time to get a little bit bolder, speak a little bit bolder, feel a little bit bolder, get a little bit more courageous, as a lot of this energy is centered around the elements of fire and also air. Also, we have to look at the energy of Jupiter in Gemini. Lets me think that it's time for us to practice on expressing our areas of the throat chakra when we have Jupiter direct in Gemini. If there's been something that we haven't wanted to say, it's time we say it now. Also, we have a very high energy day on February 9th as Sun in Aquarius conjuncts Mercury in Aquarius and Mars in Cancer trines Saturn and Pisces. This area is centered around the collective and the community, especially in areas of not just communication, but also being kind to your neighbors. As we have the Sun in Aquarius conjuncting Mercury in Aquarius, it is a time to look at our humanitarian state, our areas of well-being, and our areas of enlightenment, especially with our higher self and also with our energy of our spiritual conscious. And the Mars in Cancer trines Saturn and Pisces allows us to learn in that area of responsibilities and the area of our dreamlike state, but also understanding that there is a collective divine to it. There is a collective work and teamwork approach that comes in the energy of helping. I saw this one post, I believe the Hood Witch posted, and it says, the community works harder than the government. 100% believe. So many people rush down to help all the fire victims in LA. So much community support, so much resilience with the state of California, and of course with the city of Los Angeles. The angels, right? So the Angelinos really taking that area of creating, moving, understanding our responsibilities as a collective. Then also we have right around February 12th, full moon in Leo that is occurring right around the same time that we have on February 14th, Mercury enters Pisces and Pallas enters Aquarius on the 16th. This is a time that I'm going to say is going to be structured around passions with the full moon, also areas of roaring into our deepest insight, our areas of glamour, confidence, and even art and passion. So definitely feel the movement of that solar plex. Allow that solar plex to initiate, allow that energy of the lion to come through. We also have that energy of our consciousness, our hidden talents, being aligned as we have that movement of here and now with the Pisces. Mercury enters Pisces, which is aligned with the energy of the North Node. We also are feeling like a little bit nostalgic as we can definitely tap into some of the goals, especially if our goals have been maybe centered around our own personal beliefs that we've been pushing back because we've kind of been feeling a little sluggish. This beginning of the year had a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, a lot of burden, a lot of heartache, and a lot of grief. So if we could take that time to kind of move focus centered on our own intentions and confess our feelings of how it is that we feel aligned with ourselves, possibly in relationships, possibly with our spiritual practices, we could dive it all into gaining more wisdom as that Pallas enters Aquarius. Then we also have a time to create a bond with our collective. Then right around February 18th, we have Sun enters Pisces, and February 19th, Juno enters Sagittarius. This is definitely a time for us to see the areas of chaos, chaotic energy, volatile energy, hopefully get a little bit dimmer and a little bit more centered around the calmness, the area of freedom, the area of relationships, of spiritual practices, the area of what might take place if we have a little bit more center of peace, more center of recognition in the higher elements. Then as we continue on through the month of February, we have on February 23rd, Mercury in Pisces trines Mars in Cancer. This is a time for you to look at your true potentials, your energy of what it is that you want to create, what it is that you want to communicate, what it is that you want to be sinking forward in your area of confidence, your own personal style of the nourisher, of the goddess, of the movement, of the center of being aligned in your own spiritual practice. This would be a good time to actually look at a goddess that you would like to pay tribute to, a deity, a god, even maybe an ancestor. Pick one, study one, learn about them, learn about some of their fortunes in life, some of their movements, some of their areas of reflection. Look at that time to really have where you can ask not only the guides, but also ask that spiritual enlightenment within you to help move you along into the area of communication of what it is that you are truly seeking in this lifespan. We also have Ceres enters Pisces, which this little asteroid is bringing us the energy around our spiritual healing in new endowers. So this would also go along quite well with the Mercury in Pisces and finding a goddess that feels aligned with you. This is definitely a high energy of February 23rd as we have Mars goes direct in Cancer, and that center really puts us forward in having us more centered in our feminine, in our energy of opportunities, in our energy of nostalgia and our dream-like state. We have to remember that when Mars goes direct in Cancer, the Cancer is all about the home life. It is also about that peaceful, loving characteristic that so many of us may put down and down, like put it down, because we just don't have time to get a little softer. So this would be a time that you would actually feel that initiative, even though Mars doesn't necessarily like to be in Cancer, but that initiative might be allowing you to create that soft energy, right? Some of us need to be in our soft energy element. Some of us need to be in our feminine energy, while some of us may have been there and now it's time for us to escape it. And that's fine, but you need to understand what it is that feels right for you. Also around this time, we have new moon in Pisces that is occurring on February 27th. The new moon in Pisces is all about the energy that is starting right before we hit the eclipse season, okay? So right before we get too centered in our shadow work, we're going to look at this energy of new possibilities in our spiritual practices. Whatever spiritual practices you have, if it's going to church, if it is worshiping a deity, if it's worshiping a goddess, if it's learning about how the cosmos align in your chart and how can you open up that element of spirituality, if it's about meditating, if it's about practicing yoga, whatever feels right to you, allow it to feel right to you. Allow it to kind of take you in by a world spin and love it, enjoy it, embrace it. This leads me to something that I want to talk about. So when we are learning about our own spiritual essence, if you are learning about witchcraft, if you are learning about the elements, if you are learning about the 12 laws of karma, if you are learning about religious practices, if you are learning about meditative practices, I want to remind you that energy is energy, right? Some energies might feel a little bit more challenging and might feel a little bit more darker, might feel a little bit more aggressive, right? So it's like if you're praying to the planet of Mars or praying to the goddess of Hecate, it depends on what it is that you are seeking, what it is that you are focused on. So if you are focused on finding the area of possibly like moving out of a slump, getting some type of vengeance, getting some movement like that, that's who you would that's who you would pick for the energy that you maybe not worship, but that you show homage to or that you work with, right? So when you are looking for your spirit guide, look at what areas of that pathway does your spirit guide or that ancestral bond show. For instance, if let's say you're working on creating more balance around the home life, maybe you want to create more balance around the energy of the home, then you might be wanting to look at a goddess who is more centered around the root, more centered around the energy of the home, more centered around the energy of moving and nourishing the inner child, nourishing the collective like that. Maybe you're looking to embrace energy around a water goddess. So you'd be looking maybe more at Aphrodite or something like that resembles the planet Venus or something that resembles the energy of an Orisha, somewhere like that, looking on where it is that you feel more aligned with. I think a lot of people, one of their big mistakes is that they think that if they pick one badass goddess like Hecate or maybe Kali and somebody who is centered a little bit more in the dark mystic, that's going to give them a boost of confidence because they know that they are able to maintain and pursue through many challenges, which when you are working with a goddess or a deity or a spiritual energy that is seen as a little bit more centered around challenges, you better be ready for when those challenges come. You better be ready for when those obstacles hit. Because if you put yourself in an energy that feels very dark and a little bit too hard to get out of, it might not be the best energy for you. And I saw this TikToker, this lady, who proclaimed that she was not going to work with Hecate anymore. So Hecate is the goddess of all witchcraft. She is the goddess of the witches, of the energy of the biggest and baddest supreme, as one might say. And she said that she had this moment where it felt very surreal and she came for her. Baby girl, it sounds like you are in spiritual psychosis. Okay. That's all I have to say. If you are experiencing this, you are probably in spiritual psychosis. You need to stop sniffing the incense so hard. You need to back away from the altar, go do some grounding, get in with a therapist, and really start to reflect on what it is that you are trying to do and what is it that you are doing. And sometimes when you work with dark energy, when you are surrounded by the dark energy kind of feels like where you're at. And sometimes it kind of takes you up from your, I guess you could say, your bootstraps and hangs you upside down and says, look, bitch, figure this shit out, right? Sometimes the darkest things occur and it gives us the most center of movement, of overcoming certain objects, certain events, certain obstacles. One of the things that I didn't like about this TikToker's breakdown was she basically then was, throwing salt on the legend of Hecate. She was kind of throwing salt at her name and kind of downplaying and then one of the things I also thought was interesting is she was saying that she was following her and leading other people to her. Don't do that. But of course, she has chosen to go back to the church and she's now going to worship Jesus and, be more centered with the church and religion and Jesus Christ, right? Which, in all honesty, I think was probably something she should have did from the very fucking beginning. Because this witchy shit is not made for everybody, okay? I'm just going to say that right here, right now. And especially picking a goddess like Hecate, this shit is not made for everybody. She is centered around the dark energy of the moon, the dark energy of the night sky. She is the center of witchcraft. She is the center of movement, of hexing a bitch on a Tuesday. If you can't hex a bitch on a Tuesday, you probably shouldn't pick her. Do you know what I mean? She has that energy that feels a little bit more intrusive than what this girl was probably meant to be focused on. She definitely did not have live, laugh, love on her post-its. She definitely is not journaling those type of affirmations. So that's what I'm saying. Be very mindful who it is that you praise, who it is that you look in centered around influence with, right? And be cautious when you go into these circles, not because of others, but because of your own peace and mind, because there's some things that are just not made for everybody. Not everybody should be centered around certain dark practices, right? Centered around certain goddesses, centered around certain deities. I know there's a lot of witches who will hex somebody, and more power to them. You know, if that's what you do, that's what you do. That's your practice. That's your spiritual belief. That is the movement that you are working with. Some will not, right? Some do not. It just depends on what it is that you are looking for in your spiritual well-being and what it is that you are looking for on your journey. So with that being said, thanks for following this podcast. Please share this podcast with your witchy bestie, regardless if she hexes or not. I don't care. You follow it, give it a like, give it a subscribe, and give it a rating. And everybody have an amazing day. And most of all, let's have an amazing month of February. Bye.